As American as apple pie. If you've grown up in the United States, there's no doubt you have heard this term. And perhaps if you've grown up in other parts of the world, you may have heard it as well. As American as apple pie. Where did this rather odd phrase come from, especially given the fact that apples, well, they're not native to the United States? And apple pies, well, they're not native to the U.S. either. In this episode, you and I are going to discover how this phrase came to be and how it's connected to World War II. Stephen Carter here, your host for History of Everyday Sayings. I do thank you for joining me. Who is this show for? If you are a philomath, a logophile, or you're simply someone who loves history tidbits you can share with family and friends, this show is for you. Throughout my many years on this planet, I have heard the term as American as apple pie. Back in the 1970s, Chevrolet ads, well, they told us it was baseball, hot dogs, apple pie, and Chevrolet. In 1971, singer-songwriter Don McLean released American Pie, and of course, American Pie was apple pie. That song was about the loss of innocence and the American dreams during the 1960s, beginning with the deaths of three major teen pop music idols in a plane crash. McLean's song brings to mind images that we associate with being American or from the United States. When you think of the word America, what symbols come to mind? Well, baseball, burgers, Statue of Liberty, but the image that is most likely is apple pie. So going back in time, how did apples actually end up in America since they were not native to this continent? Apples, more accurately described by its Latin name, Malus domestica, had been around in Europe and Asia for thousands of years. Prior to Europeans colonizing the Americas, the only apples to be found in North America were crab apples. As you might imagine, colonists found these wholly unusable for much of anything, especially making pies. According to historical records, settlers of Jamestown brought apple seedlings with them from Europe, and they planted those cuttings in their new homeland. Those first apples, well, they were used primarily for cider rather than dessert. Later, when sugar became more plentiful, pies started to appear in the colonies, including apple pies. While apple pie was destined to become an important symbol of the Americas, Europeans, well, they had that whole apple pie thing down centuries before. According to history, a recipe for Dutch apple pie can be traced back to 1514. And the English, well, they had the apple pie thing also going on in the 1500s. Can we point to one individual who might represent the whole apple thing? Well, yes, we can, and that would be John Chapman, who was also known by Johnny Appleseed. And yes, there was a real Johnny Appleseed. He really did exist. He was a nurseryman who planted apple nurseries around the turn of the 19th century in Ohio and other Midwestern states. He also gave out countless numbers of seedlings to pioneers who set up apple orchards across the nation. As a result, we have a whole slew of terms associated with apples, including things like an apple a day keeps the doctor away, and one bad apple spoils the bunch. Fast forward to World War II, and we see apple pies becoming quite the symbol for American patriotism. When reporters ask American soldiers why they enlisted, in many cases, reporters were told they enlisted to defend the nation for mom and apple pie. Those few reports from the front line became magnified many times over. According to one source, the New York Times archives have more than 1,500 hits for the phrase American as apple pie. And believe it or not, there is an American Pie Council. That council tells us that nationwide we have approximately $700 million, or about 186 million units worth of apple pie sold each year in the U.S. So if you are in the U.S. and you would like to do something patriotic, bake an apple pie, or if you're unable to bake a pie, go ahead and buy a pie, but not just any pie. Buy an American apple pie. With each bite, your taste buds will be delighted, and you can feel good about your patriotism. If you would like to learn more about the phrase American as apple pie, you'll find references in the episode description, also known as the show notes. If you're not yet following the history of everyday sayings, this is the perfect time to do that. When you follow the history of everyday sayings, you will never miss an episode. If you would like to contact me to comment on this or any other episode, or for any reason, email me at cartermethod@gmail.com, cartermethod@gmail.com, to hear previous episodes of this and other podcasts. Visit my website at stressreliefradio.com, stressreliefradio.com. Until our next visit together, your host here, Stephen Carter, wishing for you and your loved ones blessings in abundance.